Today I will be going over enhancing efficiency and security for a small business. The issues and solutions I will be going over today will have to do with hardware upgrades and maintenance, software troubleshooting, network setup and security, mobile device management, and coverage of costs as well. After the simulation of the assessment, the findings were that the workstations were running slow due to CPU, RAM, and HDD usage, which caused bottlenecking, which affected performance. Proposed solutions would be upgrades to RAM and replacement of HDDs and SSDs for faster reading and writing speeds. The assessment would be completed within 1 week, and in order to stay in a timely manner, the upgrades would be implemented over the following 2 weeks. As far as budget considerations go, there would be an allocated budget for RAM modules and SSDs. For the support and maintenance plan, regular monitoring of the workstation performance and quarterly maintenance checks to ensure hardware is functioning optimally would be implemented. As far as the research goes, the IT should consult hardware manufacturer specifications for compatibility with the devices being used and reviewing benchmarks and reviews for recommended RAM and SSD brands and models. This practical application would use virtual machines to simulate hardware upgrades. This checks for any issues that might pop up. This would test performance improvements on old hardware before implementing new hardware. And of course, documentation is most important. Documentation on the current workstation specifications and performance metrics and changes implemented as well. The assessment findings as far as software troubleshooting goes, there were frequent software crashes and errors reported by the employees due to outdated software versions and compatibility issues. Solutions for this would be to install software updates and apply patches or switch to an alternative, more modern, more up-to-date, patched, updated software. They could implement regular software maintenance practices and schedule software updates during off-peak hours to minimize disruption. This would increase productivity and make sure that the team is staying on track. They would provide IT training on staff, ideally to staff on software maintenance procedures. And the support and maintenance plan would be as follows. Utilizing regular software audits to ensure all systems are up to date, establishing the ticketing system, most importantly, just to make sure everything is documented. Research, as far as IT goes, would be to refer to the software vendor documentation for the update procedures, make sure that everything is being installed properly and updated properly, and exploring the industry's best practices for software maintenance as well. As far as practical application goes, they would use test environments to simulate software updates and compatibility testing, most likely using a virtual machine. VMware would be a great software to use in this situation, and it's very cost effective as well, so that would be within the budget. As far as documenting troubleshooting steps for common software issues, maintaining a log of software updates and patches applied, and documenting software compatibility testing results. So most importantly, documentation, 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 especially with the integration of a ticketing system. This would allow for the software troubleshooting to be fluid and for there to be no issues. The assessment findings for the network setup and security found that there was a slow network and suspected security vulnerabilities due to the outdated network hardware and the lack of security measures identified. The best solutions would probably be to upgrade the network hardware. This would be most likely industry standard. Very common brand would be Cisco for hardware. Cisco also has synchronized software as well to go along with the setup of this hardware. Configuring firewalls and implementing intrusion detection systems would absolutely eliminate the security vulnerabilities, or at least prevent them or mitigate these risks. As far as the implementation plan goes, the network audit should be completed within 2 weeks. This is just so the team stays on a timely schedule and ensures that productivity is still being maintained. Budget considerations, there would be allocation for funds for new network hardware and security software licenses, anything like that. So the support and maintenance plan would be to schedule regular network audits and security assessments, For researching, it would investigate the latest network hardware technologies and security solutions, and compatibility with network hardware and software, and what is most cost effective as well for this company. For practical application would be to set up a test environment to simulate the network hardware upgrades and security configurations, just network management overall, and of course physical hardware wiring, making sure that there's no connection issues there. As far as documentation goes, network audit findings, including performance metrics and security vulnerabilities, and maintaining records of firewall configurations and intrusion detected system rules as well. Mobile devices are becoming more and more common among companies for the employees to use. So systems like these often have issues with both company provided and personal mobile devices. So there's a lack of consistent security measures, which this can pose a risk to data leakage, things like that. For solutions, developing a mobile device management policy, outlining security guidelines, making sure that everyone is on the same page, everyone is using the same software, everyone is using the software properly, and everyone is trained on security best practices. For the implementation plan, the timeline would probably be the policy would be taught within 2 weeks, and the training sessions would follow over the month. As for budget considerations, the allocation of the MDM software licenses and training materials would have to be put in place, and providing ongoing support for enrollment and troubleshooting would be a part of the maintenance plan, regularly reviewing and updating the MDM policy to make sure that employees are aware of potential security threats. For the research, exploring the MDM solutions and their compatibility with various mobile device platforms, and investigating the industry standards and regulatory requirements for mobile device security. This would ensure that everyone, once again, is on the same page. As for practical application, setting up the test environment, of course, making sure that all the policies are being enforced, and conducting pilot testing with a small group of employees just to make sure that the plan is going to go over well, making sure that everyone is comfortable with the software and everyone knows exactly what is expected of them with the use of these devices. As for documentation, of course, document the developing MDM policies, including key security provisions and device management guidelines as well, maintaining records of the MDM software configurations and employee training attendance as well. Companies often get an influx of calls or are often on a face-to-face basis with their clientele, so customer support is crucial in the field of IT. The assessment findings were that various customer support requests ranging from forgotten passwords to hardware issues needed consistency and effective troubleshooting methodologies. So to remedy this, they would develop standardized procedures, kind of like a script of sorts for addressing common support requests, providing training to the staff to make sure that they are doing things ethically and they are doing things effectively as well. As for the timeline, developing support procedures within about 2 weeks and conducting training sessions for staff over the following month, ensuring that everyone is on the same path. For budget considerations, there would be allocation of resources and setting aside a budget for payroll as well to make sure that everyone is being paid and absolutely thoroughly trained on these customer support methods. For the support and maintenance plan, monitoring customer support metrics to identify areas for improvement, and conducting regular refresher training sessions to reinforce troubleshooting skills. This ensures that everyone is once again on the same page and everything is being done ethically and efficiently. For research, review industry best practices for customer support and IT help desk operations, and analyzing customer feedback as well, and support ticket data to identify recurring issues and put in place preventative measures. For the practical application, simulating customer support scenarios and training sessions using role-play exercises amongst a team. This can also be as a team-building exercise as well. This allows people to immerse themselves in the experience and to fully get a grasp of what exactly a customer support scenario might look like. They provide opportunities for support staff to shadow experienced team members during real support interactions as well. So these would be people like administrators, HR, people that deal with communication with clientele on a day-to-day basis. As for documentation, of course, the standardized procedure for each type of support request, including step-by-step troubleshooting instructions and documentation of the customer feedback as well, maintaining records of the customer support training sessions and staff performance evaluations, as well as marking off which staff have completed the trainings and which staff still need to. With the increase of use of technology across companies, simulations of these customer support scenarios would probably look something like these listed below. Things like the customer saying that their computer is running slow, support offering assistance with performance issues and troubleshooting. Obviously the very basic steps, okay, what can the client do on the very lowest level? Try restarting the computer, and then checking for background processes. And then having the customer be responsive and working through that scenario together in a way that is, once again, ethical and efficient. For another scenario, a customer having trouble installing a software, it keeps popping up with an error message, so support responds with the exact error message request. So the customer responds, the error message says installation failed, error code, blah, 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 123. Support responds with, okay, I've researched this error code, let me look that up for you. In the meantime, could you confirm if your system meets the software's minimum requirements? So once again, just back to those basics of making sure that everything on the customer or the employee's very base level, whatever they are able to help with, we want them to be able to be self-sufficient. And for this last scenario, something like, hey, I forgot my password and can't log in. This is very common. Having to reach out to support to help them reset it. They provide you, or you provide them with the username or the email address, and then they send over a reset process, usually through an email, and the customer or the client or even the employee on the lower levels are able to be self-sufficient and carry out these processes by themselves in a way that is simple and quick. As with any company, companies that deal with technology have to be aware of cost. So costs of things like hardware upgrades would most likely be towards RAM upgrades, which can range from $50 to $200 per workstation, and SSD replacements as well, with the most common industry standard being the Samsung Evo series, which can range anywhere from $50 to $300 usually, depending on the capacity. Diagnostic tools, these are usually free or very low cost. Things like CPU-Z listed here and shown on the right hand side of your screen usually have an estimated cost of about $100 to $500, all of these together. And with the software, patch management software, things like WSUS, this would be a Windows licensed feature. This estimated cost would be about $10 to $50 per user per device per year, which ranges about $1,000 to $5,000 for a small to medium-sized business with 100 users and devices. So think about it, with this simulation, the users and devices are usually cut down to about 50. That's about the range that we were given. So the costs are going to be a little less. As for network security and setup, network hardware upgrades are going to cover the cost of the new routers, the switches, access points, etc., which can range from $100 to $500 per device. As far as the software, such as the firewall, this would be the cost of the hardware or software as well, such as Cisco, ASA. These range from $500 to $2,000 depending on the features. Very basic systems would usually be on the lower end of these. Intrusion detecting systems as well. The cost of IDS solutions like Suricata, also pictured on the right, can vary based on the deployment size and features, usually ranging from $500 to $5,000. So for the total estimated cost of a medium-sized network with an employee base of 50, it'd be about $5,000 to $20,000. As for mobile device management, costs for platforms like MobileIron, VMware, Workspace ONE, or Microsoft Intune, they vary based on the number of devices and features, ranging from $3 to $10 per device per month. So this may seem like a lower cost, however, it does add up. However, compared to other solutions, this is a more cost-effective option, ranging from $1,000 to $5,000 per year. When you think about it, a company of this size usually can manage this cost. So for the customer support simulation as well, training expenses would cover the cost of developing training materials and conducting training sessions for support staff. Like I mentioned earlier, pulling out of that, so for the mobile devices, the costs would most likely be pulled from the payroll just for training. So allocating those funds, making sure that there is enough budget for the training sessions for support staff. This would ensure that everyone is on the same page and the training materials are being utilized properly. So the overall cost of this would usually range from about $500 to $2,000 for training expenses. The overall cost of the estimated solutions for all these scenarios could range from the low end of about $7,600 to $32,500 for a small to medium sized business. I've planned here for about 50 to 100 employees, allowing that wiggle room as well. So the ROI as well would be difficult to determine here. So if the estimated ROI for each fix would come out to around $150, the investment would be $1, or the return would be $1.50 for every dollar invested for the betterment of the company. So say, for example, we take the medium range of about $20,000 here from these costs. The ROI would essentially be $50,000 with the profit of $30,000. So the company would gain an entire ROI of $30,000 here. So with that covered, this would cover the cost of the hardware, the software, the networking, any implementation of the mobile device training, and customer support training as well. So now the company, with all of these being covered, can be prepared to implement this plan with security, of course, at the top of the list, security in mind, while also keeping cost in mind as well. So this would be a budget-friendly, security-focused plan to implement.